G'day everyone, Greg here from Fishbait Films and welcome back to the BNSF Birdwood Sub revision. And today we're looking at my Athearn Genesis Es44-AC with Tsunami 2 sound. This is the second one I have. I've ordered another two, I'm so impressed. But today we're having a quick look at the outside review, and then we're getting into the guts and how I tune it to become Birdwood Sub compliant. And we'll be looking at some of the wiring mods I do and a quick look at the CV adjustments that I make to make it run more realistic and match up with all my other locomotives on the Birdwood Sub. So let's get into it. Now just a quick look at the intricate pipework there around the trucks and the fuel tank. There's been many reviews on these, so you can go and have a look if you want to see all the other nice details on these units, but you can see all the air lines and pipework underneath the body there for the truck, so that's a nice touch. Now, while Athearn and Soundtracks correctly say that this is a full functioning Tsunami 2, you'll notice that functions 7 and 8, or I should say the tabs 7 and 8, are not where they normally are on a normal Tsunami 2 decoder. So this decoder is made for Athearn, and you'll see that the rail pickups, instead of being one in each corner, are 2 on one corner and 2 on another corner. So left and right for both trucks there are on 2 tabs instead of 4 tabs. And that there is our positive for our backup light, and you will see that the backup light has been removed, and I've put the backup light on function 5, so that can be turned on and off independently, because your headlight functions are not 2 different functions. Your headlight function is one function for the rear and the backup light. Now I've also removed the ditch light wires from the number 7 tab and put them on to the function 6 tab. I have all my ditch lights running off on function 6. They don't have to come off that tab. You can remap all the functions in the decoder, but I just keep it simple so there's less programming there. And you'll notice that I solder all the wires rather than using these clips, which are okay. I found that they've all been put on very well, but I personally prefer to solder the wires. So just a tiny little bit of flux there, and this is self-cleaning flux. Comes in a little syringe, and just a little bit of solder there. Solder with an L, Americans. There is an L in solder, not solder. I don't know what you've done there. Anyway, you'll see that there are no resistors on these wires because the Tsunami board from the factory from Athearn has resistors built in for the LEDs. So if you're going to put sound in a non-sound model, like me, I use the full board. I don't use the 21-pin decoders board. You have to put resistors, otherwise you'll blow the LEDs up. Now inside the model I've got some nice little details there, the blower fans for the dynamic braking. That's pretty cool. There's a big weight in the nose of these things. The cab is really heavy, and I'm investigating getting wires up in here for the number board lights. It's doable, so we'll see what happens. Now another thing that I always do is put a drop of plastic compatible oil on all the axle bearings before I run them, and I do this occasionally. Not only does it help lubricate them, but the oil helps transfer the electricity from the wheels through to the side bearings to pick up the electricity. Right, so we've got all our wiring done and our lights moved around on our decoder, so now it's time to set the locomotive up for the Birdwood Sub. So, I've got a quick list here. Now, if you've seen my programming Tsunami decoders for realistic operations video, this is similar to what I did in this, and the Tsunami 2's very similar, pretty much all identical to Tsunami 1 plus a few other things. Now, what I'd like to do is to do a series of CV shortcut videos where I go through these CVs, maybe 2 or 3 at a time, and get right into them and explain a bit more rather than rush through the whole lot. But today, we're just going to show you the settings that I'm using for this loco. And then if you'd like me to do a series of CV shortcuts, maybe 1 a week, and to go through, say, pick 2 or 3 of these settings and get into the nuts and bolts and show you them physically how it changes on the locomotive, and go everything through motor control, lighting control, and right through to setting the graphic equalizer so you can optimize the sound for your speakers, because remember we're pushing the limits with sound on these things, and if you can equalize the speaker to get the most out of the speaker, it improves the sound. So let me know if you want me to do a series of CV shortcuts. So the CVs for this locomotive: one, we have to unlock the speed table. So to do that, CV29 is 50. Now if you go through back to page 20 on your Tsunami manual, Tsunami 2 manual, or 16, that will show you what number to set for this. Basically, if you're using 128 speed steps, which you should do, don't use 28 on your throttle, and your locomotive's going forward, all that sort of thing, it'll be 50. Now, Tsunami 2s don't have the loaded speed tables like Tsunami 1 had. I think there was about 12, or maybe even more, different speed curves that you could have. So as you accelerate up through the speed steps, the voltage to the motor would do different things. They've taken that out now because of dynamic digital exhaust, and quite frankly most people probably didn't use it. I did. I had a speed table set where as you're notching up on the speed steps, the locos will hardly move, get slower and slower. As you notch up, and when you get to about notch 3 or 4, then the voltage starts going up quicker. So what I've had to do now is plot that with a 28 speed step. So I have to go through and put a value speed match in each of those 28. It's a bit of a pain, but it's quite easy to do. We can go through that too in the CV shortcuts. So for me, CV25, I'm using user speed table. Now if you're not doing that, you don't need to worry about putting a value in here. Or if you want to use the 3-step speed table with the Tsunami 2s, you can put in a mid speed and then a maximum speed. So that's not a bad idea either. You can put, say, a lower mid speed, so the locos accelerate slowly up to mid speed, and once you get to the mid speed, then they'll accelerate quicker. So if you want to do that, then you would use the CV that corresponds to the 3-step speed curve. But I'm not. I have to do the 28 to match my old speed curve, so I put 16. Next thing we set, our maximum speed. To get speed down, we're not running friggin' slot cars here. And plus the gearing in our locomotives is way too high. And you go to La Mesa, you go to Mr. Parker's fantastic layout, Fall River. They're not running stupid speeds like you see at train shows and some other places. They're running more realistic speeds. Our locomotives are geared far too high, and they're still using worm drives, which we shouldn't be doing. Anyway, that's another story for another day. It's another rant! No rants. No rants. Shut up. If you want your notches to get closer together so it looks more realistic, rather than, speed step 1, you're screaming down the road, you need to lower your maximum speed, which is CV 66 for forward, 95 for reverse. I have mine at 100. Now maximum is 255, I have mine at 100. That gets all the notches closer together and still lets you run still too fast in my opinion. So that's the first thing you need to do. Second, once you've set that, you will have to set CV2, which is your start voltage, because you've brought down all the voltages, and now your loco won't start. It'll be jerky at speed step 1 because it's not getting enough voltage. CV2 start voltage, minimum start voltage, I have mine set at 3. Your mileage may vary. Whatever you need to get the locomotive to do as smooth as possible at speed step 1, that's what it'll be. To help with that, CV212, your back EMF, I have mine set at 100. Now, I've said this before on my programming Tsunami videos. The way I set my back EMF is to hold the locomotive with my hand. Speed step 1, the wheels should not spin. They should just have enough to almost want to spin. And as you accelerate up and get more and more voltage, then the wheels will start spinning. The lower you keep this, CV212, the smoother your locos will run, and the better they will consist with other locomotives. They won't be fighting. Because no matter how good you speed step, no matter how good you speed match, the locos will fight somewhere because we're using stupid worm drives that can't be pushed. As I said, that's another story. Setting this as low as possible really helps with that. CV209, this is sort of like your a soft start. So once you've set this and this, 209 will help your locomotive start just a bit softer and not get that jerkiness out of them if you have any. 209 is set at 100. Most of my locomotives are set somewhere between 90 and 110, 120, thereabouts. Now, hang on, I'm wrong here. Whoa, look out. 212 for the Genesis sorry, not the Genesis, well yeah, for all the Tsunami 2s, this should be 200. This is actually 220. Oh, there we go. Most of my Katos and Atlas are set at 100 because they're Tsunami 1s. All the Tsunami 2s, whether they be in Kato, Atlas, or these great Athearn Genesis Gevos, all have to be set at almost double. So the back EMF in the Tsunami 2s is very soft. It's a lot softer and it's more flexible. They're beautiful. They really do. They're a lot more relaxed and smooth and not as punchy. Even though I have to set it at nearly over double the back EMF to get the same thing, it's probably got something to do with the dynamic digital exhaust, because that works on the back EMF. So anyway, go back to 220, but still at 220, at speed step 1, the wheels just turn. Now you can increase this by increasing this 209, and that will, CV 209, that will give you a softer start but with a little bit more grunt and get any real jerkiness out of it. CV 210 also helps. That's more of your initial start off, and I have that set at 40. So you can play with all of these, CV 212, CV 209 and CV 210. CV 210 not so much, 209 really helps, and CV 212 helps as well. So recap, CV 212, 220 for the Tsunami 2s, just get the wheel spinning. CV 209, 100, CV 210, 40. CV 10, back EMF cutoff. Now we don't want this cruise control of the back EMF working all the time. We don't want that at high speeds, because that just keeps the trains going at the same speed. We don't want that. When you start going up hills, you want the train to be starting to slow down, so you have to notch up. And then once you crest the hill and start going down the other side, you want to be able to back off on the notches a little bit. And this is another CV that we could spend a whole half an hour on, talking about back EMF cutoff and how you can get your trains to go down to an absolute crawl at notch 8 without the wheels spinning on a full load. And you can actually adjust this CV10 while having these set as well for your locomotive to actually stall at notch 8 without the wheels spinning and just come to a stop. And you know, however you want to do it. So that's another whole thing. But I have mine set at 50, so at speed step 50, I have no back EMF. The train's running basically DC analog, and they slow down quite a bit on the hills. And you can actually, if you set this wrong, the train will actually stop. It'll come to a stop if you don't have enough back EMF. Anyway, this one here, CV10, we could do a whole CV shortcut on that for half an hour. Easy, no problem. Right. Now, feel free anytime to pause this and copy these down and try them in your own locomotives. Remember, that's 220 now. I screwed that up. Everything else I think is right. Now, what have we got over the page here? Yes, CVs 3 and 4, momentum. That's, you know, that should be over. One of the first things you set is momentum. I have mine set at 125. If you're using the F11 brake feature, or you're going to be using the brakes to pull up, that's not a bad setting. So there you go. So for now, that is it. This is all the motor control settings that I used on all of my locomotives here. And you may think it's a lot to get your head around, but once you do a few and you write them in a book, people say, oh, you just do them on JMRI. No, I don't use Dakota Pro. I don't use JMRI. I will for my signalling, but I don't for setting my locos up, because I can use, where are we? I can use one of these, the cab, while the trains are running, and I can adjust everything on the fly. I'm not sitting at a computer, and that is how I fix things as the trains are going around. If I see a locomotive that's, you know, spinning its wheels where others aren't, going up a mountain or whatever, I can adjust the back EMF, and I can do that on the fly. I can't do that sitting at a freaking computer. Just to prove, money where my mouth is. I've got to say, the K5LA, or whatever it is, horn on this is unbelievably nice. Wow. I have the brake set, F11. Now that's speed step 1. I've had to increase that because it was too slow for my old Tsunami ones. So that's speed step 1. That's speed step 7 now. Just gone up into notch 2. Now you can see here, even in reverse, the headlights will stay on and the ditch lights will stay on. They have been mapped so they do that. And in order to do that and also have your backup light on, you have to remove the backup light from the backup light tab and put it on a function tab, because your backup light and headlight are the same function, only moving in different directions. Right, so you also see that the headlights, the ditch lights and the backup lights work in both forward and reverse. So if the locomotive is a DPU in forward or reverse, the headlight can be on in dim, or if it's running forward as a DPU, the rear light can be on dimmed. So to do that, you have to remove the backup light from the rear backup lighting function output tab, because the backup light and the headlight, as I said before, are really one function, and you can either have them on together or have them on when it's in forward and reverse, whatever. But as I mentioned before, I disable the forward and reverse features on all the headlights and the lighting because it's not realistic. You see a lot of locos switching and everything like that with their headlights still on and their ditch lights on or whatever. It's up to the engineer to turn what lights on and off. So there's nothing worse than pulling up in a yard somewhere and the headlights flicking on and off. It drives me nuts. So you can't always do it. If you've used up, the old Tsunamis had 4 function lighting outputs. Well, if you really only have 3, because your headlight and backup light are the one function. It's just that you can either have them on together or on forward or reverse. So the 6 function output decoders are great. These new Tsunami 2s are 8 function lighting function. But really, it's still only 7. You have to take one off, but you've got plenty of lighting options. So if you want to do that, you need to remove your backup light and put it on a separate lighting function. That way, it's totally independent of the headlight. And it's really cool watching a locomotive back up in the yard with its headlights still on. And of course, the ditch lights can be on as well. That's another one that we can do a CV shortcut with, all about setting lighting up. And that was not as involved, but remapping the functions. Where are we? So just because it says function 5 on here, you can make it come out of any function on the decoder, which is what I've had to do. Because on these, in the factory, function 5 is your throttle up and start, and function 6 is your shut off. So all of my locos are 6 is ditch lights, 5 is number board lights, because these don't have number board lights yet. So I've had to remap the functions on the cab. So you can do that. Right. Whew. Okay, so very happy with these Genesis units. 100% better than the original Genesis that I had. It was a POS. These are lovely. They run absolutely beautiful. I've got 2 now. I've got another 2 on order. That's how impressed I am with them. And they are easy to get to. 2 or 4 screws. The body comes off. Motor's easy to change if you have to. Things are easy to get to. They're usable. They're easy to maintain. And for me, that's a big thing, because locos get a lot here and they wear out and you have to do things. There's nothing worse having this wonderful thing that when you have to do something, it's a pain to get to. The detail's fantastic. They don't have rotating roller bearings, but you know, they're built like a brick outhouse. They really are strong and well built inside. The new motors are great, run as good as a Kato, better. Sorry, Kato. And teamed up with Tsunami 2s, silky smooth, and the Tsunami 2s, their back EMF, as I said, is a lot more flexible. It's a lot more just pliable. It doesn't seem to want to push and pull as much as the old ones. So a delight to use, a delight to run. Really good combination. Athearn have done a good job on these. And as I say, the only thing is the number board lights. I'm working on that. I do have a couple of ideas. And of course, the new Athearn Genesis 2 coming out have lit number boards. So there you go. So obviously the new ones of these will probably have number boards. Anyway, that's it. If you'd like for me to do a series of CV shortcuts, I won't be rambling on all this. There'll probably be 10 or 15 minute videos with 1 or 2 CVs. Let me know in the comments below. And soundtracks do them, really good. George and the little Mackenzie. Oh, I got a crush on Mackenzie. Don't tell George. they do, soundtracks do great, great CV settings, but they don't have a layout to really show how they, work. So I'd like to do 1 or 2 CVs a week, and to show you exactly the difference on running locomotives on a layout. Let me know if you think that's a good idea, and we'll get it going. Anyway, that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you on the next video. And a bit of a teaser, I hear that Lord Stan is on the way soon with some news. That's it. Okay, thanks for watching. See you on the next one. Bye for now. Bye-bye. Love this K5LA or whatever it is. Listen to this.